TESOL Pop, Season 10, Episode 7. Hello and welcome to TESOL Pop, the mini podcast for busy teachers. My name is Laura and joining me today to talk about finding what works for you as a language learner is Urmi Hossain. In this episode, we're doing something different. Instead of talking about teaching tips, we're actually talking about the learning journey. Now, as Urmi speaks lots of different languages and is a passionate language learner, there's so much we can take away as teachers and as learners ourselves. So let's join the conversation where I asked Urmi to share a bit about her learning journey.
I do speak 4.5 languages, the 0.5 being my Spanish, and the other 4 languages that I speak are Italian, Bengali, English, and French. And some of the languages that I have learned were by choice, and some others were not by choice. My journey with Bengali and Italian, it starts from when I was a kid. My parents are from Bangladesh, and I grew up in a South Asian household, so they taught me how to speak Bengali because that was our way to communicate with each other. And I was born and raised in Italy, so I spoke Italian since I went to school. And I was the one who brought Italian at home. So I would speak Bengali with my parents, and I would speak Italian with my sister. And Italian is the language that I am most comfortable with. Because it's a language that I have basically learned from when I was a kid, and I studied always in Italian. So I always say Bengali is my mother tongue, but Italian is my adopted mother tongue. And afterwards, of course, I basically learned how to speak English because it's a language that is taught back at school in Italy. But I was also in UK for a year, where I had a chance to go to school, and I actually learned English for a full year. And when I came back to Italy, I still had to work on it because 1 year was not enough. And then I also learned how to speak French back when I was at school. But now since I live in Montreal, French, Montreal is the bilingual city, so I need to know how to speak both languages.
It's incredible how you've collected languages as you've gone into your teens and adult life, like English, French, and you mentioned Spanish as well as the 0.5 that you're learning now. I'm really interested to hear how those language learning journeys may be different or have differed, because obviously we've talked about this before recording today for our listeners. And I think it's really interesting that you have different ways into each of those language learning journeys, and what's worked for one hasn't worked for another. Could you share what has worked for you for some of these languages that you've learned?
Yeah, definitely. Each one of them had a different journey. And I can speak more about English, French, and Spanish. For English, I learned it at school, and it was taught to us in a very, I want to say, strict way, meaning that our teacher, she would make us do conversation in English. She would make us learn the literature in English, commerce in English. We would watch videos in English. We would watch movies in English, listen to English songs, and we would have neat conversation with native English speakers. And so we were fully immersed in the whole English world or English culture without being in England or any English-speaking countries. Then when it came to French, it was slightly different because we need to differentiate the French from France and the French from Quebec. They're two completely different from each other. From when it came to the French, the one that we learned at school was basically just like the French from France. So we basically learned the grammar, we learned how to speak, we also spoke with natives. But then when I moved to Canada, I realized that it's not, here they don't speak the French from France, they speak the French from Quebec. So that was a completely new journey for me, because it was I could not understand the accent, even though I would tell people, yeah, I can speak French, but then I would be in a conversation, I would feel lost. So this is when I had to find a different way to approach this, and I was I don't want to go back to school to learn this because I know the basic, I know the foundation. It was more about speaking and communicating with each other. And so for that, I took a different approach. I started to listen to podcasts, I watch a lot of YouTube videos, and I basically had a friend with who I would speak just in French, just to basically work on my speaking to the point that I became comfortable. And so that took a bit of time because the Quebecois accent is very, very different from the French accent. But I
Mm-hmm.
realized with the work that I have done that now I'm able to differentiate the different French accents, because you have the one from Belgium, you also have the one from Switzerland, you have the one from Morocco. So like I can distinguish the different accents right now because I worked off my active listening skills. And then there is the Spanish, which is the language that I have chosen because I wanted to. And with Spanish, I took some classes at school, but now I do it sort of like a do it yourself type of thing where I watch videos on YouTube and I take notes every time I listen or watch something. So that's a different approach as well.
It's really interesting how with French, you were in an environment where you noticed there was a difference and you just decided what you needed to do to make it work. And you mentioned like increasing your exposure to listening and practicing spoken words. I wonder with Spanish, because it's different for you because you're not in a Spanish speaking country now. What motivated you to learn Spanish first off?
It was my curiosity. I was just super curious about Spanish, and I used to listen to Spanish songs. And then I was like, you know what? Let me try and take a class. And I took Spanish as an elective because I wanted to have like a nice, like easy grade, especially because I knew how to speak Italian. So I was like, oh, it's going to be an easy way. And I didn't realize that how much I enjoyed learning the language. But I also think my professors, they made it really easy because I had a professor from, I think, Colombia. And the second one that I had was from Peru. And they are very like, warm and welcoming. So they made it fun and easy. So you're like, oh my gosh, like how can you not fall in love with this class? And then afterwards, I was like, you know what? I want to continue with this journey. And I realized how much I love learning about the Spanish culture. And I think also because the people are just genuinely really warm and heartwarming. And so that's what made me stay in this environment. So every time like I'm listening, like even with the Spanish, I have to say I can distinguish now the differences because you have the Spanish from Barcelona, which has a different accent from the one spoken in Latin American countries. Like it's in Mexico, you have a certain accent. In Venezuela, you have a certain accent. And I didn't realize this until like I was like watching several videos like spoken by different people. I was like, oh my gosh, it's not the same. So it was interesting. It was really interesting to see that.
What's really inspiring about your journey is that you have had contact with obviously classroom based practice with professors, as you've mentioned, but there's a lot of your learning that seems to be very independently led. You mentioned watching MTV series, music, podcasts. I wondered how you kind of discovered this because even myself as an independent German learner, in my case, it can be a bit tricky to navigate and find what works for you. How did you discover these strategies as techniques that work for you as a learner?
It was a trial and error because like I have, for instance, books. I also like watch stuff on YouTube, but I don't watch. Like I tried different things even when it came on like watching things on YouTube, because there was this YouTuber who would speak just about general things, but I didn't like it. And then there was another one where they would speak about the Mexican culture. So I felt it was much more interesting. So I had to like try different things until I found my right fit, basically. I very much enjoy like Easy Spanish. I don't know if you're familiar with this YouTube channel. They have like Easy Spanish, Easy German, Easy Italian, and they speak really easily and spontaneously. Like they go around the city and interview people, and I want to learn the language that is spoken every day. So I felt like that was the right fit because I need that in case I'm traveling to a Spanish speaking country.
That's really inspiring how, as a learner, you've gone through a process of trial and error and not afraid to like let things go if they're not working and try something else. I think that whole process is quite cyclical, isn't it? In not being afraid to try different things and let them go, but it can be difficult to remain motivated. I think I'm speaking for myself and maybe for other teachers and learners that I interact with that, learning a language is hard. There's a lot of ambiguity, uncertainty, and it's not like instant incline. Sometimes you get to a level, you plateau, sometimes you dip a bit, and then, it's a struggle, isn't it? What things help you remain motivated? Do you have any particular insights on that?
There are two things that I do at the beginning of the year. One of them is the vision board. Yeah. And the second one is I write down all of my goals, and me learning Spanish, it has always been there. So I always like have like a Spanish, like I have the flag of a Spanish speaking country, and I always write down how like I want to improve my Spanish and throughout the year. And I know it's really easy to basically fall back, like you don't feel motivated. It's really, really easy. And what I do is that I also have like a weekly reminder on my calendar that I have to do a little bit of Spanish, and I put it on my calendar. So every time I put something on my calendar or on my weekly to-do list, I get it done. And so I always have that reminder that, okay, I have to do at least 10 minutes of Spanish. And that's how I try to like be accountable for my own actions. And when I don't do it and I see that a week went by and I have not done this, I'm like, okay, today I'm going to sit down and learn a little bit. And when I forget, I always go back to my why, like why I started doing this. And that's how I stay motivated, because I also have met a lot of people who struggle to learn a language. And unfortunately, the reason why it's like that is because we don't make it a priority. Like, it's not true that we don't have time. It's just it's not our priority right now. So we just let it go. So you really have to be responsible for your actions. Like if you want to achieve something, like you cannot betray yourself, like you have a goal of achieving, B2 of like Spanish. You need to be accountable for your own actions, and you need to be disciplined for what you want to do. So that's how I stay motivated throughout my language journey.
That's brilliant. So the vision board, setting goals, scheduling time for learning, and really kind of showing up for yourself.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Urmi, for sharing your learning journey with us. It's really inspiring for teachers and teachers who are language learners themselves to get this insight. I'm sure there's lots of things they're thinking about for their learners. Finally, to close today, if listeners want to follow your work and find out more about what you're doing on your learning journey, where can they find you?
Yes, I'm available on YouTube. It's called Urmi Hossain, and I have a lot of interviews with language coaches. So if anyone wants to, follow my YouTube channel and find like language coaches, you can find those interviews there. I also have my LinkedIn profile called Urmi Hossain. I have my Instagram account called Urmi Mio, and I have my blog called myways.ca.
That's lovely. And as always, those links are in the show notes so you can find them easily. Now, if you have a question or an idea that you'd like to pitch for the podcast, then you can contact us just like Urmi did on social media or on our website, tsolpop.com. Finally, you can support the work we do by leaving a rating and review wherever you listen to the podcast, by sharing today's episode with your teaching community to continue the conversation, or by even buying us a coffee at ko-fi.com/tsolpop.